Before I was even 3 years old, my dad was diagnosed. Before I had a good grasp on words, my dad was told too that he would never forget. Multiple sclerosis. He had never heard these words, and even when the doctor explained, he could not understand what those words meant for the rest of his life. At 26, he would slowly find out what they meant. An autoimmune disease where nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord are damaged. Continued damage leads to lesions. How does one start to understand what those two words mean when even the doctors can't tell you? Do you remember what it was like at first with you getting diagnosed?
I was training to be a supervisor at the post office, and I was working night shifts, so that made the whole MS thing that much worse because I was tired anyway, and the fatigue from the MS, and then on top of that, the medicine that was supposed to help me at least not feel as bad actually made me feel worse. We still did our hikes and did our fun things on the weekends and, went on our trips, and things change, but I don't know if you noticed right away because you were so young.
How many different mobility aids have you had throughout the years?
The first thing I used was a cane. When I went hiking, there's a insert you could put between, kind of behind the back of the leg and inside of the boot. Having trouble picking my foot up, especially on uneven ground. It was a tripping hazard. And it was a few years before I had to start. I got a scooter first, which was for longer distances walking, and then eventually I had to go to a wheelchair, power chair.
Do you remember some of the first symptoms you started really having that showed you kind of what it was going to be like?
I think the worst, well, one of the worst parts was the fatigue, and I wasn't sure if that was coming from working night shift, which was bad enough, and then the MS causes fatigue, and then the medicine you take for the MS can make you feel crappy and fatigue more. So the fatigue was really bad, still really bad.
What kind of activities did you do before you got diagnosed?
Hiking was like one of the main things that I did. Doing family stuff, on the weekends and when you guys weren't doing school or whatever. I got to where I liked playing softball. I also went to the Y and worked out a lot after I was diagnosed, and lifted weights and jogged and played basketball and played a lot of sports.
What do your hobbies consist of now?
I go to a lot of sporting events. Football, I like high school football. I go to hockey games, the rail yard dogs. Go out and take pictures, flowers and animals, and I just like being outside. I don't like being cooped up indoors, so I use radar to go places and get on the greenway, and I just enjoy being outside.
What kind of symptoms do you handle now?
I mean, physically, I can't. The only thing that really works well or halfway decent is my right arm. Everything else, like my legs, don't. I can feel them. They're not paralyzed, but they're just so weak I can't use them. My left arm is contracted, which just means it's so tight I can't move it independently. Um, my right arm is weaker than it used to be, but it's the only thing that really works.
Can you think of anything else you want to talk about in your experience with it, or?
I think the main thing that I've learned is it's all about perspective. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I can't do, but like you can look at it as I can't work or I don't have to work. That's the way I choose to look at it. Like, try to make things positive, because if you only dwell on the negative, that would just, tear you down. So I try to focus on the good things. The MS has forced me to think about things positively. In life, your perspective and how you react to the things that happen to you, that's really important.